TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes, to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, Mark Radulich, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is All Elite Wrestling Full Gear. Joining me tonight from the Canadian office, ladies and gentlemen, you know him as Charlton Hero, but I just call him Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey, how do you do? How do you do? How do you do?
I am doing great, and with me tonight is Dr. Britt Baker, and boy, is she ugly. Hey, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going?
What is the issue here with Britt Baker? I don't think she's that bad looking.
Oh, man, she's like Mianne Balik from Big Bang Theory. I don't know. Just doesn't do it for me.
All right. So, yes, we are talking about Full Gear, which took place at the Royal Farms Arena. In Baltimore, Maryland, home of The Wire. Mark that on the bingo card, everybody. And it was headlined by two matches. One for the AEW title, Cody Rhodes versus Chris Jericho, which, if you just woke up from a coma, was not a mid-card match on a WWE card.
Well, it did pretty well in its own environment, Mark, is all I'll say.
Yes, it did. And then in a lights-out match, for the former Dean Ambrose, now once again known as Jon Moxley, as he was in Combat Zone Wrestling.
I don't know. I think his name is Jon Moxley. Is it? That's how he was announced.
Something like that. He's Da Mox, like Da LOX. And then Japan's own Kenny Omega, straight from the video games.
I think those guys are actually still fighting. I think that match has not ended, and it's
at this point. I think Jon Moxley is currently burying Kenny Omega in a gravesite somewhere. Kenny Omega, is in a casket doing like the Bride, just trying to wiggle, just trying to punch his way through the casket. All right, let's get it started in here. Let's get retarded in here. Were you looking forward to this? What was your thoughts going into Full Gear? And you know what? Before we even get into that, let me ask you this, because there was talk. The people on the Twitters had asked. They wrote me and they asked, "Hey, are you guys going to do a Wednesday Night War podcast?" And I went, "I'm doing 500 podcasts. I can't do anything else." Though, I'll tell you, I say that, and meanwhile, I'm on Twitter begging, just practically throwing at myself at people, going, please do a boxing podcast with me, boxing watch-alongs and everything. Fucking crickets. But, will you do a podcast on the Wednesday Night War? I don't have the time. Anyway, we're like 5 weeks into this, I think. It started the beginning of October. At the time of this recording, it is November 11th, and let's just talk for a few minutes about the Wednesday Night War. We'll focus a little bit more on AEW, but Chris Bailey, cut off my rambling and tell me, what have you thought of Dynamite, week 1 to week 5 going into Full Gear?
I will tell you that just having competitive wrestling back on TV is a big deal. For me, it's actually blocked my Raw viewing, believe it or not. So I save up a lot of energy for NXT and AEW. AEW is almost can't miss TV for me, and I know my enthusiasm has gone down week after week somewhat after seeing it over and over, but I'm really digging it. Like it's the first time in wrestling where we have just an unlimited amount of wrestling on TV. It's everywhere. I mean, you've got New Japan, you've got Ring of Honor, you've got AEW, NXT, WWE. It's Impact Wrestling. It's everywhere. I mean, we've gone from the Attitude Era to the proverbial buffet era. That's what we're in right now. It is an unbelievable overdose of wrestling. As for AEW and the quality, you know what? I really don't have anything bad to say about it, only that, we kind of got to get past our cast of characters with the Elite and move on to something a little bit better, because it seems that there's some repetition there that's starting to rear its head, and the depth of their field is not what NXT has. Now, believe it or not, I know people think that NXT has a limited roster, but they've also got the powerhouse of the WWE, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing some more crossing of the streams there. So I'm just waiting for Randy Orton to appear and just RKO somebody. It's going to happen, people. Let me tell you.
He re-signed with WWE, so probably not.
Oh no, I'm talking about on NXT.
Oh well, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
If that's if Randy Orton can come out of his walking coma that he's currently in.
Oh boy, is he ever in a walking coma.
So,
but AEW itself, just for one more thing, I think that the people who are on top are doing an amazing job. So, I mean, Jericho is doing the best stuff he's done in years. Cody Rhodes cut the promo of a lifetime with his own, basically, Hard Times promo. Like, this kid, when you talk about Cody Rhodes, this is a guy who WWE, didn't give the time of day to. And he is, I gotta think that we talk about Paul Heyman in the context of being a wrestling genius. I don't know if Cody Rhodes is too far behind, and that may be high praise right now, but that's where I'm sitting, man. This guy seems to know the business and seems to know what he's doing on that mic.
Every time we go out for lunch or dinner or go to the movies, my daughter asks me for a slushie, an icy. Okay?
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, there is when it's every single time.
Fair enough.
And so as the parent, as the adult in the room, I have to say no. You don't need sugar covering ice every time we go out. We go out pretty frequently. We go to the movies almost every week for one reason or another. So as the adult in the room, you have to say no, or the children will always want ices and candies and Funko Pops and everything else they see around them. And that's probably my biggest criticism of AEW. Over the 5-week span, and certainly over the first couple of large event shows that they did, from Double or Nothing to All Out, the one consistent thread that I see is, and it's getting better over time, but it's still not there yet, and that's what's gonna. And I'm gonna tell you what I'm talking about, and then I'm going to put a pin in it because we'll bring it back up again with the Jericho-Cody match. This is a group, especially led by Cody, you can feel his frustration with the WWE coming out of him. You can feel sort of the resentment of the mainstream WWE product coming out of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. And back to the frustration. I mean, Jon Moxley has as much said it. I am set free to do my art from having been in this very restrictive, very closed off, boxed in, compartmentalized environment. And there's a lot of good to be said about that, but without an adult there to say, okay, we get it, but things still need to make sense. You still need to consider some long-term booking.
Bingo.
Here's the thing, the big criticism of the NWO storyline in WCW was that there never seemed to be a logical end to it. The ending should have been Starrcade 98, I believe it was, when Sting defeated Hogan. And he should have beat him clean, and there shouldn't have been the crazy issues that there was. To be the man, you got to be tan. Ugh. None of that.
I love that. That's another podcast right there.
Yeah.
Listen, your pay-per-view is in trouble when your main event ends maybe 2 minutes in when the wrong guy gets a pin. Yeah. Like clean pin. right away.
Oh my God. My favorite thing from that era was the PW Pro Wrestling Illustrated cover that said, "We hate to say it, but give Hogan back the title." I wanted to frame that. Where I'm going with all of this, so people understand me. You need when you're sitting down to write a screenplay, you need to have your ending worked out, and then you write to it. Not, I have this great idea, start writing, and then you get to the end and you're like, schmageggy, I don't know what to do here, so fuck it. That's how you end up with a Stephen King movie. So. what's happening with AEW is I think you're seeing a lot of art coming out of these guys, a lot of that frustration, and I think they're hot-shotting a lot of things, and they're not really looking at, well, this is, presumably this product should go on for years. I mean, Nitro went from 95 to 2001, if I remember correctly, and it ended because of the AOL Time Warner merger. Presumably, they should be thinking, we're going to go for 10 years, 20. I mean, Raw's been going on since the early 90s. And we're in 2019 here, so SmackDown, I think the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there. So longevity is the key, and I know you can't completely predict what's going to happen, but there does need to be someone saying no to these guys every once in a while and saying, you know what, maybe we don't need 3 lights-out matches in as many months.
Exactly right. And that goes from the agent work as well. So you're exactly right. You're right on the money. So you take a look at their matches, just their match level itself. There's a reason why WWE limits the amount of moves that wrestlers have. So, every match feels fresh.
Right. Not every match should have somebody doing a Canadian Destroyer.
Exactly. And when you get, well, we'll get into this a little bit later. I definitely want to save the first Canadian Destroyer on this card. Actually, the second Canadian Destroyer on this card for the show. But what I will say is that the reason why WWE limits their moves, the move set, is that there's no repetition throughout the night.
Right.
AEW has that same bump to the rampway. I'm telling you right now, how many times, and it's almost like you could have a beer drinking game to it. I'm telling you right now, the amount of times that someone does a plancha or a dive to the outside to that rampway, it happens over and over. I counted, I think it was 19 dives to the outside in one show in total. That's way too much, man. It's the same stuff.
I put on Twitter, topes, suicide dives to the outside have become the new headlock.
Fact.
And so that's my point. Now, people may hear... Now, I also got called Jim Cornette.
I can see that, Mark.
I wrote a criticism about AEW after the Moxley Omega match, which was basically... This is not the actual words that I typed were, my thoughts on this card is they better maintain their college audience because nobody else is going to buy this crap. And what I'm trying to say is, WrestleMania is coming to Tampa, and I'm buying 4 tickets. 1 for my wife, 1 for me, and 2 for my kids, right?
Yep.
And WrestleMania, for every one wrestling fan, is probably going to have 3, 4, 5 other people with them because it's a family event. And that's the thing. I understand that there's a mentality out there that says, I want, as Jim Cornette calls it, video game style, endless moves, endless gymnastics, wrestling. But that's a very niche audience, and they don't have kids. They don't bring their wives for the most part. They don't have wives. You're talking about a very small audience that isn't going to grow. Some people will fall out of it. More people will come into it as they age into the, Look, I remember being in my 20s and loving, like, the cruiserweights in WCW. I'd never seen anything like it. I grew up on WWE style big man wrestling from the 80s. So here comes the 90s, and I'm seeing guys like Jericho, Malenko, Guerrero, Mysterio, and then these luchadors in there, and they're diving all over the fucking place.
Oh, and man. I remember the first time that I saw Rey Mysterio in Psychosis on pay-per-view. I was gobsmacked. I could not believe the difference. I mean, we did have, Malenko and Jericho, I think, gets away with being a little bit overrated when it comes to this entire cruiserweight thing, because this guy was lucky to be in the ring with some of these guys. I mean, sure. He was Canadian level lucha, let's put it that way, where a missile dropkick is, your high impact move, right?
My favorite wrestler from that period in that particular group was Ultimo Dragon. He was
perfection.
A ninja. Yeah, he was amazing.
But he could do it all. He just wasn't
Yeah.
flippity-doos. He could mat wrestle, and it was fantastic.
Right, and he had some of my favorite matches from that era. But so all of this to say that my thing with AEW and the point that I was trying to make that night, and then of course why I got called Jim Cornette, is the essence of life is variety. You're not going to bring in more people, because I can tell you just from my own little sample that everybody in my house looks at the same wrestling product and picks out different things that they like. My wife likes different things than I like. My kids like different things than we like. Okay? My daughter, for the longest time, was like in love with Neville. I didn't give a shit about Neville.
Oh,
Now-
I hope she doesn't like him now.
She doesn't watch AEW. So, the Wednesday Night War. And then we'll transition into Full Gear here. You know, watching AEW watching Dynamite for a few weeks and then going and then building into Full Gear, there was a lot of good. I like this, the solid wrestling aspect of Dynamite, but I feel like there were some things that I wish they had chambered and waited a little while before they put it all out there. This just seems to be a company where the mindset right now is like there's a sense of urgency, like they're going to get canceled at the end of every show. So they go fucking crazy. And they're like, whoa, they brought us back again, and that's going to get old after a while. Yeah, there'll always be a niche group of fans who for some odd reason have amnesia and want to see a match with 100 dives every single week. These are the same people who think Slayer is the single greatest band in the history of metal because they play the same song on the same album and they've been doing it for 40 years. I get it.
Bingo.
As a Slayer fan, I get it. But also Slayer has kind of a niche audience. Granted, it's grown over time. And so that's an audience that's kind of gone with them. But, take a band like Cattle Decapitation. You have no idea who I'm talking about.
Take a band like Cattle Decapitation, folks. What the fuck are you listening to, bro?
Cattle Decapitation. Kind of the same group of people for as many years as they've been around. They're not growing their audience. But for the people who like that stuff, but for the people who love Cattle Decapitation, everything they do is perfect. And so AEW, be a little more Journey, be a little more Def Leppard, a little less Cattle Decapitation. That's all I'm saying.
Beautiful analogy. Beautiful.
When we talk about...
Speaking of Cattle Decapitation, the first match was with the Cattle Decapitation herself, Britt Baker.
Just so people get it, when we review Survivor Series and War Games, we'll talk a little bit about NXT in the first few weeks of the Wednesday Night War. I'm not going to get into it now. Let's get into Britt Baker, who defeated B. Priestley by submission.
You can get in Britt Baker all you like. I'm not having no part of me and Balik.
In 11 minutes, 35 seconds. So here's my one issue. They seem to want to push Britt Baker, but it feels like they're a little schizophrenic in how they do it. And the whole reason why the mandible claw worked with Mankind was because he had his fingers covered. He had a guard on them so that you couldn't bite his fingers.
Yes.
She's just sticking her hand down your throat.
Where have those hands been?
Yeah. If she's going to do the mandible claw because she's a dentist, I don't know if you know she's a dentist, but she's a dentist.
Oh, my God. This is my entire problem with this whole character. Her character is a dentist. Number one, what is the history of wrestling dentist, Mark?
Well, she's an actual
Dr.
dentist.
Isaac Yankum.
She wasn't the Unabomber 5 weeks ago.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, get her a guard for her fingers. She doesn't need to just be sticking bare fingers down anyone's throat. And Bea Priestley, prior to this match, done murdered a woman. I don't know if you saw that. Yep. If you saw that particular GIF on Twitter, yikes!
Oh man, she's a dropper, that's for sure. Oh man.
I don't know if these are the two people you want on your, last minute sell it to the people pre-show match. I mean, this is one I think if you have it on the show at all, because at least Bea Priestley and Britt Baker have a history. They've been going after each other over the last few months when they've been in the same building. So it's fine that they had a match, and it's fine that it was on this show. I just don't think it should have been on the pre-show. I would have put something else there, maybe.
Oh, exactly. You're trying to sell this pay-per-view. You're not trying to deter the Chris Baileys of the world to run and flee from their television.
And I thought Bea Priestley was good, but apparently she has problems with transitions. This was a bit clunky between these two. Like, Britt Baker, I think, would be gangbusters in NXT because they'd slow her down. She'd get taught fundamentals. I think... like when you look at the NXT gals, most of them work pretty flawlessly.
Oh, absolutely.
They know how to put together matches. There's people working with them, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a training brand. I think Britt Baker has gotten by with a high markability factor. And you're not into her looks, but I don't think she's an unattractive woman. She has a high marketability factor, and I think that's gotten her farther than her ability has. And you have Bea Priestley, who apparently has been working indies for a while now, and she's got a look, and she looks like a tough gal, but she's a bit clunky in the ring. And so you have Baker, who's not as sharp as she could be, and Priestley, who's clunky, and now you've got two gals who don't mesh very well. So it's like, this is a great feud, and then the match started.
Exactly right. Oh, man. This is so... I don't even know how to describe this. So you got Britt Baker, and I know I'm giving her a hard time with her looks, but I think she's just generic. She's very vanilla. There's nothing about her skill set that does anything, although she manages to have chemistry with Bea Priestley here. So, clearly they've wrestled 100 times before, and they even break out, yes, the first destroyer. Ooh, boy. Priestley comes back and actually gives her one for a near fall, but... this match ends with a tap out to the lockjaw. And and by the way, just for reference, Taz was on commentary, and Britt Baker was it Britt Baker or Bea Priestley who was said to be rolling through the flu? I think it was Baker, wasn't it?
Yeah, Baker had the flu. Taz had the line of the night, by the way, where he said, "There's an unwritten rule in the locker room not to hurt one another." I almost turned this off after that.
Very good.
Are you fucking dumb?
What a moron.
Like, I know people give Jim Cornette a lot of crap for his sort of sticking to his guns about this should look like, in a world where magic is gone and nothing is kayfabed, you get a look behind every curtain, that wrestling should still have a semblance of a real fight. And a large part of that I agree with. I think... at this point, with the rise of MMA and accessible boxing and whatever, you really can't present this as a legitimate competition. But I'm okay, presenting as sort of a stage play of
yes.
of actual combat sports. I'm kind of fine with that,
which is great until the lights go out.
We'll get to that later.
Yes. No, this actually happens in this match. So the lights go out, and Awesome Kong appears on the stage with Brandy.
Yeah.
And she comes out with a knife. A knife. This is the second time. Actually, the second one may have been an ice pick, not a knife, but this is the second knife or blade or stabby tool that we've seen people attack. So basically, what happens? Britt Baker defeats Bea Priestley with the lockjaw, with the submission. The lights go out. Awesome Kong shows up on the ramp, and of course she's with Brandy. And Kong comes down and just delivers just a proverbial ass kicking to Bea Priestley, and cuts her hair with a knife. Then she smells it for an extended period of time, which was creepy in itself, and carries it as a trophy. So I guess she's the predator now.
She's scalping people. Yeah, get it?
Yeah. Clever.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, they need to stop doing the fucking turning the lights off and back on again. I'll get to that a little bit later when we get to the Lucha Brothers match. But Jesus Christ, you don't need to do your pre-show match does not need this much gimmickry. Number one.
No.
Number two, I don't know why. I don't know why they went after Bea Priestley and not the face in the match, fucking Britt Baker, and transition into that. So that was sort of a weird judge. I guess we'll see what happens with it. The jury's still out on that one. Overall, this needed to be about 5 minutes shorter and have less killer moves like the Canadian Destroyer in it. Like, get out there, do it. This is why I don't think this was the wrong place for that match if that's what you're going to do in it. All right, let's move on to Proud and Powerful, formerly LAX Part 2 versus the Young Bucks. They defeated the Young Bucks in 21 minutes because I don't think the Young Bucks are capable of doing a match in less than 20 minutes. But I have to say, as down as I've been on the Young Bucks and making fun of them and everything, this was the best match I've ever seen the Young Bucks in. What was different about this match than any other Young Bucks match I've ever seen is this one had pure wrestling psychology in it.
Yes.
There was a story being told. I was interested in that story. I wanted to see how it was going to go. It wasn't just big move, kick out, big move, kick out, big move, kick out, top this, top this, top this, and then, go home at the agreed upon time, which isn't really interesting to me. I don't need to see 100 different moves and then at a pre agreed upon time, we're done.
Right.
This had a beginning, a middle, and a definitive end to it, and I've actually never seen the Young Bucks wrestle so well. I guess a lot of it had to do with the fact they were in there with two guys that can also work and sell and look great on camera in Santana and Ortiz. So this was probably my favorite match of the night, to be honest with you. And really? I was shocked it went as early as it did.
Wow, wow. I can't believe it. But anyway, Proud and Powerful. Can't stand that name for a tag team. Right out of the gate. Don't like it. I think it means something else. But, I'm not really sure that that's probably the best use of the former LAX. Now, let's get down to what really happened in this match. So at ringside, you have the decrepit, beaten down, worn out, leather-faced Rock and Roll Express. So Ricky and Robert, after getting their ass whipped on Dynamite by LAX, are sitting at ringside. And, of course, right away they start doing, some jaw-jacking with Proud and Powerful. And, you know that they're going to end up in a ring somehow. And, boy, do they ever. And I'll agree with you, Mark. So this match, it's the first time where they actually slowed it down. And you know what? I'm actually thinking that they had the mindset that they were actually going to save some heat for that three-way tag match a little later. So good for them. They slowed it down, and it was a far improvement of a match for the Young Bucks, who are just basically one step away from synchronized ballet. Really. Yeah. I mean, you look at their first few matches, especially with the Lucha Bros. I mean, choreographed is not even a word. It didn't even seem like a match. I mean, it was spots. It was a series of moves, but there was zero psychology. This was stiff. This was hard running. I mean, LAX is a different breed of animal anyway. They're extremely stiff. Their moves are excellent. And Young Bucks actually played off them, and they slowed it down a little bit and made a much better match. And then came to Rock and Roll Express. Oh, boy.
Oh, God. One of my kids was in the room with me when this happened, and they were awake for like the first hour of this, and I think one of them actually asked me, they're like, who's the 100-year-old guys?
Well, every single one of the tag teams went back in the day always had a Marty Jannetty, and it was very clear that Robert Gibson still is to this day the Marty Jannetty of the Rock and Roll Express, but he looks like a fossil ready to die. Ricky Morton, on the other hand, hasn't tuned into that this is 2019, because I still think he thinks he's back in 1984, with women's underwear being tossed at him, but Ricky Morton actually hit a friggin' Canadian Destroyer in this match.
At this point, the move is utterly useless. I mean, I think it was Jake the Snake Roberts who talked about the DDT is dead. Like, everyone kicks out of it now. Everyone does it. Like, a DDT is worthless. Well, someone really should do some art that shows like a graveyard, and on all the tombstones, it's like the DDT, the Canadian Destroyer. They're fucking dead. I don't know. They're dead. I don't know what you can do in wrestling anymore because they've killed so many moves. And at this point, between Adam Cole, baby, boom. By the way, Adam Cole, baby, and everybody and 900 other people doing Canadian Destroyers. I'm about sick of that move, and it needs to stop.
Oh, listen, there's two moves that I think need to go away in 2019 wrestling. The Canadian Destroyer, and I can't even say it without swearing, the goddamn Sling Blade. I hate it.
Yeah.
So those are the two moves that I can't stand. Neither one of them are Impact. Actually, the Canadian Destroyer, you're actually flipping on your own head, Mark. You're throwing yourself into the move. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah.
It is, so the other guy literally like rolls over your back, and you do the move yourself. So Ricky Morton's actually not doing the move. I think it was Santana, Santana did the move on himself.
What's hilarious to me is that in the mid-'90s, if anyone else did a super kick besides Shawn Michaels would have stabbed you.
Well, speaking of stabbing, there was a lot of knives going around, but I didn't see anybody stabbed in AEW because they ripped each other off blindly.
Yeah, nobody seems to care about that stuff, and it's like, okay, again, you build up to your main event. If you're doing a main event style match in every match, it's just exhausting. Ugh. Again, be more Journey. Break it up. Do a ballad. Play some hits. Play some lesser known stuff. End your night with, More Than the Feeling is fucking a different band. Any Way You Want It. Okay? And that's the one you play at the end. Any way you want it. That's the way you need it. And everyone sings along and goes home happy. You don't start with Any Way You Want It. Because then where do you go? People listening to this podcast going, who the fuck is Journey and what the hell is he talking about? Okay? This card the way AEW does things is a lot of cattle decapitation. The same song over and over and over. You have to be a hardcore fan to really enjoy it and pick up the nuances of a different cattle decapitation song from one song to the next.
Oh, is there a difference, really?
Not really, no.
I'll take your word for it.
No, I need you to listen to Cattle Decapitation now.
Oh, man. There's something wrong with you.
I saw them in concert. I saw them with Goat Whore, as a matter of fact.
Yes. How do you explain to your mother you're going to see Goat Whore and Cattle Decapitation?
I had a T-shirt, by the way. I had several Goat Whore T-shirts. I wore them proudly.
Oh, man.
Anyway, but Goat Whore had more rhythm than Cattle Decapitation. Just FYI. And you can hear more conversations like this on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Anyway.
One thing I want to point out about this match before we move on. So Jim Ross is still finding his ground, okay, and behind that mic. So he doesn't.
Grumpy old Ross.
He's getting better. He's, you can really tell now. Before, he couldn't even tell who was in the ring. If there was a tag team match, this guy was lost. So you can tell that he's at least following the match. So he knows who the people are, who's in the match, and all that stuff. Moves are a different story. Luckily, he's not with Shivani this time, who will call his ass out on it. He's with good old, well-mannered Excalibur.
1-0 Excalibur, by the way.
Yes. Excalibur is hilarious. So when Jim Ross screws up a move, he won't call him out on it and go, oh my God, that's the Panama Sunrise, or call something like that. He'll wait and he'll weave that into his conversation after the fact. So if he botches a move, he'll just go, yes, that was a heck of a Panama Sunrise there we just saw from Ortiz. like he's not sledgehammering Jim Ross over the head with his inadequacies, but he's filling in the gaps for people who know the difference. Let's put it that way. In a nice way where Jim Ross is not going to be angry at being shown up by Excalibur, but he may be the most pleasant man on commentary I've ever seen, this Excalibur. So good job, brother.
All right, so now we're going to get to the middle of this show. All right, this was really like bookended by some pretty solid wrestling, but the middle kind of does like a reverse bell curve. And it starts with Adam Page versus Pac, and then it kind of goes down, down, down. We start to come back up a bit, but who cared? With Rio and Emi Sakura, and then we go back to exceedingly well with Jericho, Cody, Moxley, and Kenny Omega. Though that Moxley Omega needs a discussion. We'll get to it. Adam Page and Pac had a perfectly serviceable match. It wasn't anything special. It really had no it factor. It had no dynamic factor to it. It was just two solid wrestlers doing a match, and I was actually kind of disappointed and underwhelmed because Adam Page promised me cowboy shit. I wanted to see Pac with a ball gag in his mouth and Adam Page on his back, kicking him with spurs and riding him around the ring. That's cowboy shit. I wanted to see him tied up like a bull, like hogtied. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Pac hogtied and carried out on a spit, ready for cooking.
Yeah, I would have even accepted like the old smoking guns, cap guns. You know what I mean? The long coats or something. You know what I mean? Adam Page. Let's be honest here. Adam Page. The reason why we didn't get the cowboy stuff, his actual horse died. Okay? Literally in real life, his horse was dead, so he no longer has anything to ride to the ring. You've got Pac, who's also known now as the Bastard. Which,
okay. By the way, I would have forgiven whatever lack of dynamic action was in this match if Adam Page had ridden that horse to the ring and Pac had Blazing Saddle style punched it in the face and knocked it out.
Oh yes, he would have been a bastard then. Yeah, I agree. That would have been the seller of this match.
Yes,
but you were right, man. This is very generic, middle of the road. Once again, Hangman Page. You could see the deflation in the crowd too. Like the air was out of the room. I mean, and I know Pac is one of these guys who. Now, was it Pac or Pac?
I want to say it's Pac.
Pac. Okay.
Yeah.
So Pac is one of these supposedly beloved internet darlings. Yet when he gets in the ring with AEW, it's just like the room gets deflated. I know he's got a lot of special moves, but when you consider the other talent that's in AEW, and he's very basic. He literally he's like Chris Jericho hiding out in WCW, you know, wrestling young talent and getting over, you know, wrestling Juventud Guerrera. And even though the only move you've got in your arsenal is a missile dropkick, you look good because the other guy's flippity-doing all around you, right?
Right.
He didn't have this. You know, Hangman Adam Page is not the flippity-do guy, even though he hits that stupid rolling clothesline off the ropes. What's it called again? What's the rolling clothesline called?
Hangman clothesline or something like that.
I don't know. It's stupid. But anyway, but like you said, the air was out of the room. Pac actually lost this one. Fair and square, but that's about all I can say about it.
Yep, this was 18 minutes and 30 seconds, and it was probably about 8 minutes and 30 seconds too long for where it was on the card and what they gave us. In all honesty, you know, if Hangman Page was gonna do a promo, it was like, I'm gonna beat Pac, I'm gonna do some cowboy shit, then this should have ended with him beating Pac, throwing a noose around his neck, and dragging him to the backstage for whatever cowboy shit was gonna happen we couldn't show on TV. Instead, it was just two guys having a match, and in the immortal words of whoever was that said it to Steve Austin, he's told the story before. The guy that used to manage Jack Swagger. I want to say Uncle Zeb, but his real name, whatever. Said, what's so stunning about Steve Austin? What makes Adam Page a
Dutch Mantel? Dutch Mantel.
Yeah, Dutch Mantel. What makes Adam Page a cowboy? Because so far, he's village people. He's village people cowboy. You're just wearing fucking chaps, buddy, and you call yourself the Hangman. But honestly, you could have called yourself Ham Sandwich, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yep. Billy Gunn works there. Like, lend him the long white trench coat and the cap guns, Billy. Come on. Give him something cowboyish.
Chase people with a branding iron. Come on, Pac, I'll brand you and see Pac squeal all the way to the back. It'd be hilarious.
I think the good guy thing just doesn't work for Hangman. I just think he's miscast in this role. I think when he was Bullet Club, it worked a lot better, and it's just... Mm-hmm. The face thing just doesn't work with him, man.
Yeah, Adam Page is the only one still in AEW who I think needs to go to NXT and kind of learn how to be a big time, prime time cable performer. Because he's not. Because I understand that in his mind, when he had the opportunity to go to either WWE or follow the Cody train wherever it may lead, and it led to this. It was like, well, I could be, you know, I could. I don't know if anyone really values the training you get through NXT. I think they see the opportunity for big paychecks and and stability. but I don't think anyone sees the real value of what you're going to get out of NXT along the way. And I don't know for sure, but that just seems to be the feeling that I get. And I feel like Adam Page is one of these young guys, who thinks he knows everything. And he was like, well, let me see where this Cody train's going, because I don't want to have to play in the WWE system. He's another one. I want to be an artist. Okay, well, you're fucking boring.
Yeah.
Is your problem.
And not only that, you've got a promotion built around like moves of excess. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody's got their flippity do and their off the rafters dive and all this stuff, and yet he's beating people with a dead eye clothesline. I mean, it's old school. It's Stan Hansen. He can't hit it properly. I mean, the only time that he really hits it properly is when he's got someone who could sell the shit out of it.
Well, here's the other problem. Stan Hansen was also 7 feet tall and made of dried beef.
Yes, exactly right. And you knew when Stan Hansen was hitting you. Well, he didn't even know when he was hitting you because he was blind. But when he laid it in, man, you felt it at the other end of the TV. I mean, he walloped you.
Yeah, somewhere out there,
Page just sort of like just graces you. I don't know. It doesn't work.
He's not built like Stan Hansen. He's like an average guy. He looks like Shawn Michaels.
Looks like an underwear model. He could be in like fetish cowboy porn or something.
Oh my God! Yeah, no. See, that's the problem. Is you're doing the gay cowboy act, and all you need is a cup of pudding.
Well, that might be his angle. Maybe he got to be the gay cowboy. Maybe that'll be his lot in life.
And I don't. Not that I have anything wrong with that, but if you're going to be a gay cowboy, you need to be eating pudding. Next match. This should have been on the pre-show.
This is the one.
Or it should have been on Dynamite or Dark, or just not where I could see it.
It just makes me feel like I'm in an armory somewhere.
This was Sean Spears, No More Garbage Wrestling, the chairman. Sean, I need that T-shirt, by the way. Oh, I need the No More Garbage Wrestling T-shirt.
It's awesome.
Sean Spears with Tully Blanchard defeated Jelly Nutella in 11 minutes and 45 seconds. Joey Janela, as I learned more about him, is a self-trained backyard guy who only works in garbage wrestling.
Yes.
How did this even get 11 minutes? And how did this get on the main card? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, see, Sean Spears, Cody's buddy in real life, trying to push this guy to the moon. I will say they've done a lot more than WWE ever did with Sean Spears. I don't like his name. I love his alliance with Tully Blanchard. I really think that is helping his thing. But he's in there with Mr. Jelly Donut himself, who looks like an insult to indie wrestlers. This guy.
So Sean Spears, they're just messing up because if his whole thing is No More Garbage Wrestling, and he's targeting guys like Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela and what's his nuts? Half makeup on the face there. Darby Allin. Yeah, if he's targeting guys like that, and maybe he's opening it up a little bit to the more like high flyer type, luchador types, and he's just whacking everybody with the chair. I'm the chairman, and you garbage wrestlers are going to get one cracked over the head. I love that. But then do that. Commit to it. Send Joey Janela out there, and Joey Janela goes for a crisp tie-up, pushes Sean Spears out of the ring. Sean Spears says, you know what? Fuck this noise. Grabs a chair, cracks Joey Janela in the head with it. Your winner by disqualification, Joey Janela. And Sean Spears just looks into the camera, says, no more garbage wrestlers, and spits and leaves. Perfect. That's how you book Sean Spears.
Well, at least, so the ending to this match for folks who didn't know, so basically it's Joey Janela loses this one. I mean, Spears hits him with his Death Valley driver for the win. But, I mean, there's a couple spots that are in here. I mean, if you're going with No More Garbage Wrestling, you got Sean Spears actually tying Janela's hair to the top rope with the stupid tag rope, and he's got to fight to try to get himself out of the corner. I thought that was fairly genius. But I think a lot of the moves in this are not crisp. I mean, Joey Janela, there's a reason why he's a backyard wrestler, because I don't know if he's ready for prime time. He looks like he's got a sloppy jelly donut type build to himself. He looks like his pants are a little bit too baggy, similar to like Velveteen Dream back in the day when he wore those baggy poopy pants, I'll call them. And I don't know, it's just there's nothing here of any value. And like you said about Sean Spears, I mean, you've got an angle where he's hunting down these hardcore wrestlers, but I don't know if anyone cares.
They might if they actually positioned it right.
Yes.
And committed to it. And here's where, I was talking in the beginning about you need an adult in the room to say, no, this doesn't need a real match. We're going to package it like a match, but it's really just an angle to get Sean Spears over as this no more garbage wrestling chairman guy.
This is the opportunity. Remember back in ECW when they used to do, they'd start with a match. It could be, Guido from the FBI taking on Danny Doring. And all of a sudden, there's 6 or 7 wrestlers later, and all of a sudden you got like a triple threat match going on, right. Or you have 6 or 7 wrestlers in a scramble. You know what I mean?
I used to call this the ECW opening medley.
Yes, which is great. Which always got the crowd hot, and that's all this needed to be. I mean, this didn't need to be a match. I agree 100%.
No, and it was the wrong place on it. This needed to be on the pre-show. You open it up, like I said, maybe give him a few minutes. Let Joey Janela seemingly have Sean Spears on his heels. Let Sean Spears lose his temper, crack Joey Janela, lay him out with a chair, have Tully Blanchard, I don't know, pour beer on him or something, and then that's it. Walk away and carry Joey Janela out on the stretcher. And then I think you start to have the makings of something. And then people are like, gee, and then have Sean Spears come out later in the middle of the pay-per-view and be like, I'm coming at, or do a backstage thing. Nobody has to always come out to the ring. But do a backstage thing where somebody catches up with Sean Spears and they're like, what is your problem? Why did you attack Joey Janela of all people? And you're like, I hate jelly on my... No. I hate fat, out-of-shape wrestlers. No. I hate hardcore backyard guys. These guys... And start, go, Joey... Janela, Havoc, Darby Allin, I hate these guys. They're shit. They're bringing down the product, and I'm going to take them out. And then, okay... Now you start to generate some interest, because right now there's none. And whatever they were trying to 100%. Go for with this, they utterly just whiffed.
Ugh. Moving on.
Worst match on the card. SoCal Absolutely. Uncensored. This is, I don't know if you know this or not. Hey, Melissa, did you know that was the worst town SoCal Uncensored had ever been to?
Really?
Yes.
You don't say.
I do say, and so do they.
Hey, Melissa.
Your tag team champions in the worst town they've ever been to. Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky being Chris Bailey's favorite wrestler.
Oh, yes.
Defeated the Lucha Brothers and Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. This was a 3-way dance for the AEW Tag Team Championships in 13 minutes. This was good.
This was good.
I talked about the bell curve. This one, this one kind of goes up a little bit before it kind of goes back down, and then we're back up again for the rest of the pay-per-view. Really good 3-way match. I enjoy. There was a lot of athleticism here, a lot of stuff you've seen before, but at least there's so much happening and so frenetic that it keeps you interested. And what I liked about this was that it was shorter than the average match of this type. This only went about 13 minutes. Maybe it could have, been a little bit shorter. Could maybe knock off those last 3 minutes, make it an even 10. But I'm not going to cry about it. 10 to 13 minutes was about right for this match, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And the real problem came at the end, where the lights went out again. And I put this on Twitter. I said, in the immortal words of the great Brian Last, is the lighting guy in on it? Why does the lights keep going out? Why couldn't... Look, I'm okay with. By the way, this would only be the second time somebody dressed up as Pentagon with this company.
The first time it was Fat Pentagon.
Yes, the first time was Fat Pentagon, who turned out to be Fat Jericho. I mentioned he's fat, and then and this time you had Pentagon Light, who showed up in the ring, and of course they do the mirror thing, and it's like. For a company that's sort of stressing the sport over drama aspect of professional wrestling, and then you see stuff like this is where I get come on. This is where an adult need to be no, don't be stupid. This isn't necessary. Just have I honestly don't understand why they didn't have Christopher Daniels come out sooner. Like, the way I would have booked the ending of this is I would have had SoCal Uncensored in trouble, Lucha Brothers within minutes of winning the title, and Christopher Daniels comes in for the save, because there's no DQ, it's a three-way, beat down, and then SoCal Uncensored end up pinning, like, someone for Private Party. Right. Other than what they did do, which is they turned the fucking lights out again, because apparently the lighting guy is a secret member of SoCal Uncensored. And they do the mirror, and Christopher Daniels shows up dressed as Pentagon. They do the mirror thing, and oh my god, it's Christopher Daniels. Whatever.
Oh man, that's funny. This match in particular, like I gotta say, so the participants alone, so Scorpio Sky, they're clearly building him for things outside of SCU later on. I mean, just the way that he's being put over. Not only in these matches, but through the commentary. I mean, they're boosting this guy way above the other two, which is sort of strange. You got Lucha Brothers, who, of course, are just a dynamic team, and doesn't matter who you stick in the ring with them, it's going to be a great match. And Private Party, who sort of came out of nowhere. If you want to talk something, a product of the Wednesday Night Wars, Private Party is probably one of the biggest success stories. Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn are just, I mean, they came out of nowhere, and I think they got instant credibility with the AEW crowd. So, you've got three teams who are on the top of their game here. And, of course, SCU wins. They actually beat – who did they beat? Cassidy, I think, wasn't it? From Private Party? I think they beat. Do you remember?
No.
I think so. Well, anyway, I think that's who they won. Anyway, so the lights goes out. Chris Daniels shows up. And what's funny is that I don't think the crowd knew who in the blue hell he was first, because he's wearing the Pentagon makeup on his chin, so right away it looks like he's got this like white beard sort of thing going on. And it wasn't until he started to do his Fallen Angel histrionics that people tuned in and started to cheer a little bit. But I think they lost the fans a little bit there with too many flip-de-doos. But overall, I enjoyed the match. I think Scorpio Sky, regardless if I think he's a bit of a douchebag, I think that he's got some credibility moving up the ranks. But they did mention in this one that Private Party is frustrated because it's their second loss. So they're keeping tabs on win and losses. And that's one thing I think if they're talking about the sports vibe, they're doing a pretty good job with the rankings. So they actually released rankings earlier this week, and, they actually got a running tally of their wins and losses. So pretty cool.
Company I used to work for, we were having a hard time kind of keeping the doors open and the lights on because just the changes in funding, changes in business. And I remember there was a kind of a conversation being had about, well, how are we going to generate more revenue? Where are we going to get more funding sources from? How are we going to keep the lights on and the doors open? And somebody said, I hear what you're saying. What do you think about changing the carpet in the conference room? That's what I think about.
What?
That's what I think about when they say they focus on their win-loss record. It's fucking professional wrestling, for Christ's sake. Like, absolutely. Can we please see the bigger picture and not worry about, Hangman Page has got 2 wins over Yakety Schmackety. Like, this isn't baseball. I don't fucking care.
I think they're trying to use that as their separation between the two brands, that every win and every loss means something, right? So
okay, the separation.
I see their strategy.
The separation between the two brands should be tell a decent story, because WWE forgets their stories half the time, drops them midway through, or puts on a red light, kills the guy, and
God, no.
Like that's the problem. Is like, I remember. I keep going back to musical references, so that's kind of like my base of thought. But I remember the history of punk rock being sort of a reaction to arena rock. You had all of these bands that were starting to play like stadiums and stuff, and people just started to feel very disconnected from popular music. There was a sort of movement happening, and then out of this sort of frustration and disconnection comes punk rock, which is very raw, and they're being played in basements and small clubs and bars and stuff like that, and it's raw and it's guttural, and people feel emotion and connection to it. as opposed to the big arena rock that was happening where people felt disconnected and far away. And so what does that have to do with wrestling? You know, if WWE's your arena rock, then okay, AEW, be punk rock. But
absolutely.
But be punk rock that focuses on doing the things that WWE does wrong. It isn't the win-loss record that's the issue with the WWE. It's that they don't put anybody over. WWE has long since done away with stars. The star is the brand.
You got it. It's the WWE's booking philosophy is that, you know, someone has to get the win back. So it's, you know, even Steven booking where nobody gets over.
Right.
You can't, you know, nobody has like a streak built in. Nobody gets hot. Everybody is held down. And it's just this vanilla, straightforward, boring way of booking where you can't get excited because there's nobody who's pushed to the moon. You need somebody with a rocket strapped on their back for people to get behind.
In a way, the WWE's become the Harlem Globetrotters. Nobody goes to see the Harlem Globetrotters beat the Generals. You fucking know that's going to happen. The only one that didn't know it was going to happen was Homer Simpson.
Bingo.
Everybody else knows you're going to watch basketball theatrics when you see the Harlem Globetrotters. And that's kind of where WWE has slipped into, where they've become the circus, the ice capades, the Harlem Globetrotters. This isn't about competition anymore. This is about putting on a show for the masses, you know, for giant stadium-filled Saudi audiences. And if you're trying to be the opposite of that, then you need to be the one telling compelling stories. You need to be Joker to WWE's Justice League.
Ooh, good analogy, sir. Yes, I agree 100%. That is, I mean, WWE has herself in such a pattern, and I think this is where NXT has risen. You know what I mean? This is, you know, they've created a brand that's different within in-house, and you don't even realize it, that the difference between NXT and WWE is that NXT follows a pattern where you're allowed to get people over. Right. You know, people, you know, if somebody gets a rocket strapped to their back and they become champion, then they lose. You know what I mean? It's not one of these, well, they lost 50 times heading into a title match. It doesn't make any sense. So I think this is where this win-loss philosophy for AEW will eventually pay off. But like you said now, a win-loss is not going to put asses in the seats. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not going to drive a pay-per-view buy. I think it's just one element in many that's going to make a difference over time.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I know for some people they're like, wow, they spent a lot of time on the win-loss record. Who gives a shit? Well, that's exactly kind of my point. Is I feel like, and this, I'm going to keep threading the same beat here into my commentary on this because I really think it's important. If anyone takes away anything from, you can listen to a million podcasts, but I want you to take away this from this one. There's a lack of adult supervision in a singular vision, saying this is okay, this is bad. I don't know if you know the story behind Damon Wayans and Spike Lee and Bamboozled, but Damon Wayans wanted to do his performance a certain way, and Spike Lee was like, no, Damon, you're doing it this way. You have to have a strong leader, a strong director, not ruled by committee because everyone's friends and nobody wants to step on anyone's toes. You know, and everyone wants to do art, and it becomes very unfocused. And so there's nobody kind of saying, like, hey, the win-loss thing is fine, it makes us different, but it's a stupid thing to focus on.
Yes.
We're telling stories here, we're not baseball.
It's going to limit them at some point.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's going to become a hindrance that they're not going to be able to follow through on and become a problem because you're going to have people who they want to give a world title, you know, world championship to or a shot to who suddenly get popular and all of a sudden they've got, you know, 15 losses. You know, then they're going to have to bend their own rule and put them in a title match. You know what I mean?
You know, a couple of weeks back, maybe a couple of months ago, when the WWE was in sort of a ratings free fall, and they'd done a draft, because I think they've done 12 of them this year, but one of the drafts they did. They did the draft, and then the ratings were still in free fall, and they were like, oh, well, and then I think some of the executives were like, why don't we have this person? They're popular. Bring them on. So they came up with the wild card rule. where people could just show up as story and need necessitated, without having to, come up with cockamamie reasons and whatnot. And the whole thing was cockamamie. And I'm just counting down the days to where the win-loss records actually paints them into a corner, and now they have to come up with cockamamie wild card things.
It will absolutely happen. There's just no way out of it.
And somebody out there is going, well, football has a wild card thing. Somebody who has less than a stellar record in a football season somehow wins a wild card match and gets into the playoffs or whatever.
Yeah, we'll go watch fucking football. Shut your mouth.
And that's great for football. It doesn't work nearly as well in dramatic storytelling.
Nay.
Jason's coming at you with a machete and he's chopping up campers, and wild card, here comes fucking Leatherface. Wait, what?
Yep.
All right. Riho defeated
Pornhub drop down under Asians.
Riho, your women's champion, defeated Emi Sakurai, her teacher, her master, her sensei, in 13 minutes 20 seconds. I know Riho's over, and I don't want to.
Is she? Yeah, is she over?
From what I've
with
heard,
Kenny Omega, maybe.
Okay, leave Kenny Omega's fetishes out of this. From what I've heard from other people in other podcasts who have also been to these things live, people cheer Riho when she comes out, and I think it's because the last two generations of Americans just have a fucking anime fetish, and she looks like she popped out of Sailor Moon. Whatever. I'm not really into Riho. I thought she was a poor choice for the champion to start off with. I don't know why they didn't put it on like Kong or Nyla Rose or Britt Baker, but that's just me. I really don't know why they didn't put it on Nyla Rose. Poor gal. But she had a match. I was barely paying attention here. From what I understand, they told a decent story with these two. It was the master and the apprentice. Hey, for the kind of people that like this sort of thing, this is the kind of thing that those people like, as Jim Cornette would say. To me, I say, meh.
Yep, that's exactly right. What's funny, and anyone who knows me, I'm from Canada, Newfoundland, and her opponent here, Riho's opponent, I can't pronounce her name properly. Emi? Is that how you pronounce it? Sakura? Emi Sakura?
Yeah, Emi Sakura.
Sakura? Okay. She's basically wearing the Newfoundland flag. I kid you not. She is actually wearing it. Go ahead and Google Newfoundland Canada flag. This is what Emi Sakura is wearing. I kid you not.
One of them dresses the Newfoundland flag. The other one still dresses like a child bride.
Oh, man. Listen, if my wife walked... I would be embarrassed if my wife walked in front of the screen and Riho was wrestling in her little fetish gear. This is what this is, right? This is the entire joke with Riho. Is that she is like male fantasy fetish. That's the entire thing that drives this girl's gimmick. Am I saying it's a bad thing? No, because the wrestling audience is the 30+ basement dwellers, you know what I mean, who are into those things. So
yes, neckbeards and incels unite. Look, I understand that what I'm about to say people are going to fire back with, but Rey Mysterio. Riho is too dang small. Riho looks like when me and my son play wrestle. And my son can get in some good shots, man. I have taught that kid well. He also is a heel and likes to hit me from behind. I can't tell you how many times he's run hard, as fast as he could, as hard as he could, into my ass when I'm not looking. That kid is born for the mosh pit, let me tell you. But that's the thing. Even the daintiest of girls, like Sasha Banks, for example. Sasha Banks is a dainty gal. There's not much to her. She's very slight, and that's why she keeps getting fucking injured. But even she looks like she would tower over Riho, and is thicker and looks a bit stronger. Someone like Bailey or Shayna Baszler. What do you call it? The one that the one that used to be a bodybuilder in NXT. Now she's on the main roster.
Oh, Dana Brooke.
They would fucking murder this woman.
Oh, she's murdering herself with her plastic surgery, man. If her face gets any more tighter, I don't know.
So, like, I remember
Lord.
the Nyla Rose Riho match, and like Nyla Rose like, hit a splash on her, and Riho did that fake-looking, retarded Matrix bridge that she does.
Yep.
I've never seen anything more fake in wrestling in my life.
That particular spot it literally stopped the world. It felt like the world stopped and people were like, "Oh, this is fake wrestling." That's what it felt like.
You know, like people listening to this, like, wow, they're really slamming this product. Look, again, Proud and Powerful Young Bucks, awesome. Paige and Pac had a solid wrestling match. Spears and Janela, I just think they handled it wrong, but there was nothing utterly bad about it. There was nothing incompetent about it. The triple threat was great. It's just the same triple threat I've seen a bunch of other times, and then What's-His-Face's comeback was not anything, was stupid. But the match itself was great. This is the only match on here where I was like, I don't care. Riho's not believable. And the stuff they're doing, it's like, eh. I guess if you're
she wins. She just won with like a knee strike, which is,
yeah.
I don't know. One thing I will say about this match is that video packages matter because if you're new to this product, they set it up. I mean, you knew the whole deal, teacher versus student, but they didn't really play it up in the ring.
No, that's the thing. Like when WWE produces a show, every match gets a package. And you get the entire history encapsulated in a 2 or 3 minute package before the match. Cut some of these match times down. Give me more packages. Because there's some people out there like, well, you have to watch AEW Dark. No, you have to watch AEW Dark, loser. I don't. I have fucking kids to take care of and a job to go to. I only got so much time of this, and some of that time has to be dedicated to Big Dick Buster on Godfather of Harlem. Thank you very much. So, with that said, you need to take your AEW Dark footage, cut it up, put some music behind it, give me a package. Now, and then maybe I won't look at my phone the whole time, but I think part of it is I was more interested in Emi Sakura doing her cosplay of fucking Freddie Mercury than I am in Riho.
Oh my God. Thank God you said that. Has there been a worse cosplay in wrestling besides Emi?
Well, anything Cody Rhodes does. He needs, and I'll talk about that in a second, but yeah.
This didn't get over with anybody. People were like, as soon as she came out, people were like, what the fuck is this?
Because she needs different music. She needs to come out to Fat Bottom Girl.
But it wasn't like, oh man, this is really stupid. It was like literally, oh my God, what am I watching?
We need to license the entire Queen catalog, and just every week, like she shows up on Dynamite again. She should come out to like on a bicycle, just bicycle over like gangbusters. When she finally wins the title, we like do the fucking
should have came out the champion. Fat Bottom Girls.
Like I said, Fat Bottom Girls is what she should have come out to. Have her do a fucking Last Man Standing match and have her come out to Who Wants to Live Forever. Have her come out to the Flash Gordon theme one night. Be great.
Oh, this is brutal.
I would be, like I said, I'm fine with Emi Sakura looks like a fucking wrestler. Riho looks like Riho, as I said before, it looks like
drop down Asian.
This looks like a fucking Japanese sex robot.
You got it exactly right.
All right, moving on. For those of you that are still with us, thanks. And if you've listened to this, but you're like steaming mad, remember I'm at Mark Radulich on Twitter. Send me your fucking hate tweets.
And I don't know this man.
All right, now we get to our final 2 matches of the night, and boy, was this a tale of 2 different matches, man. Chris Jericho with Jake Hager versus defeated Cody Rhodes with MJF. When MJF threw in the towel at 29 minutes and 35 seconds. Look, let me say this. Let me get the positive out of the way first. This match, move for move, psychology-wise, was excellent. Darn near perfect. Chris Jericho and Cody, at least when they're in the squared circle, are the 2 adults in this company. They know what they're doing. They know how to tell a story. They're years with the WWF, whether they're resentful or not, whether they were frustrated, whatever this fucking story was. they know what to do, and they know when to do it. They have the instincts, they have the experience, and I could watch Cody and Jericho do multiple matches, which I'm going to get to in a second. The ending, where MJF threw in the towel, was absolutely perfect. It was exactly what should have happened. But then, and this goes back to what I said at the onset of this podcast, they took what should have been a 3 pay-per-view storyline set over a series of months to where they build up MJF into this mega fucking heel. This guy was on track to be the next Ric Flair. Okay? The most hated, the dirtiest player in the game. This guy had it all. And they went, and again, and instead of giving me, long, slow, build, and finally in 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, boom, baby's in the air. You gave me a 10-minute hand job and Pirate Eye. The fuck?
Oh, man. I am going to disagree respectfully, sir.
Ugh.
So, I think you're right when it comes to the basics of the match. So, I think psychology-wise, and this is my favorite match of the entire night, by the way. There was no, they didn't rely on flippity-doos. They didn't rely on win-losses. They relied on good old basic wrestling at its best. And Cody and Jericho, there's no one better, in AEW than doing this.
So real quick, this was like 1A for me. Like 1A. 1 is still Young Bucks, proud and powerful. I have 0 complaints about that match. Nothing. I loved it. The stuff after with the fucking Rock and Roll Express was an eye roll for me, but whatever. At least it
Robert
paid off.
Robert Gibson is looking at you with his cross eye right now.
At least they paid off what had started on TV. So it's like, I'm not going to cry about that. This is sort of 1A for me because everything up to the towel throw I thought was perfect. But having him then kick Cody in the nuts, to me, undercut the whole thing and blew months of storytelling. But I'll shut up now. Yeah,
and so we talked about, basically the match ends. Jericho has Cody in the Lion Tamer, listen to me, the walls. I was going old school there. And he's got to put on really crazy. So he's down on one knee. He's really got him stretched out. MJF throws in the towel pretty quick. The fans are pissed off and all that stuff. I thought this was great. So MJF has an out here when it comes to it. So he didn't toss in the towel when Cody had the advantage, which is normally what you'd see in a screw job finish. He threw it in just as Cody was probably about to lose. So, he can actually say and have, a excuse or an out when it comes to this whole heel turn. So, he thought he did the right thing for his friend. His friend was disrespectful to him after because he didn't believe in why he did it, and he kicked him in the pills. So that's basically what happened. He, when Cody finally gets up and realizes that, MJF threw in the towel, he sort of gives him the stink eye, and then he comes around, and MJF has none of it, and he gives him a kick right in the pills and drops him. Then he walks out, and as he's going up the ramp, I don't know if you caught this, but a fan just tossed a beer on his ass.
That was perfect.
We learned later on that this was a plant, of course, but it reminded me of the old NWO days when, Hogan and Nash and Hall would be in there and they'd be just dodging bullets left and right with, beers and popcorn and garbage being thrown all over the place. And I think if you're doing a heel, that's exactly what you want to see. Sure. Someone getting nailed with some beer, right? So then you had Jericho doing the whole celebration with the inner circle, which is good because you always get the vibe. It always goes back to the circle. And he even broke out his little bit of, little bit of the bubbly. You know what I mean? So that was kind of cool, too. I thought from top to bottom, this was my favorite match on the entire card. Great psychology. They gave MJF an out, even though he's decidedly turned heel. And the other thing is, and I know you say there's no payoff here. They should have slowed it down. But, and I know fans out there who are dead, staunch AEW fans will say, well, it was all on the internet. It was all on YouTube, and they've been teasing it for, 9 months now. But normal people don't really get to see that build. Yes, it existed, but hey, maybe you should have shown more of it on the actual television to actually put it over. That's what I'll say would be the downfall of this heel turn.
All right, you've already heard this, but for the people at home, here's what should have happened. You throw in the towel, Cody gets pissy with MJF. MJF throws himself on his tender mercies. Cutscene. Just Cody stomps off to the back.
Absolutely.
And between now and the next... Okay, well, actually, before all that ever happened, Cody should have never have made the stipulation, if I lose, that I'm never competing for the title again. This match didn't need that. And this is what I mean by there's no vision or leadership back there. People... This is youth and short-sightedness that I think is sort of guiding this company, and it's frustrating. I'm not going to refer to myself as a master storyteller here, but I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what works in terms of narrative and what doesn't. So bear with me, and if you disagree, that's fine. You wouldn't be the first, you won't be the last, but I do feel like. They George Lucas this instead of giving us a strong beginning, a solid middle, and a definitive end. So here's what should have happened. Going into this, it's just a match. Cody had to have a couple wins on his hands. He goes with Chris Jericho. This part of this is driven by revenge against all the shit the Inner Circle did between the beginning of Dynamite and now. And MJF throws a towel in. Now Cody can say, I didn't quit. MJF threw the towel in. And they can have this conversation about, MJF's like, but you were going to die in there. Your head was bleeding buckets and blah, blah, yakety schmackety. Yep. And this time Cody's like, all right, well, we're not going to go through that again. So this time, last man standing at the next pay-per-view. Okay, and you build to that, and and the whole time MJF is like, "Man, I'm here for you. I'm in your corner." And Cody's like, "You know what? Maybe give me some space." And and there's that conflict going on. You have more Inner Circle elite stuff happening between now and then, and you get to the last man standing match, and you have another situation where MJF fucks Cody out of the win. But it's not clear if it was purposeful or not. It's still
hazy. Yeah, there's a shadow of doubt.
Right. And now Cody's like, what the fuck, man? 2 matches? 2 matches, 2 times you interfered and I lost the match. This time, you're out of there, bud. I'm not coming to ringside with you. I'm not bringing the dog. I'm not bringing Brandy. I'm not bringing Dallas Page. I'm not bringing anybody. We're doing this shit in a cage. You can either win by pinfall or by escaping the cage. Okay?
Right, but that's when you bang out the stipulation.
And if I lose this 3rd time, yes, I will never compete for the title again. And you have your cage, and you have the Inner Circle run down and try to get Jericho out and keep Cody in, and the Elite run down, and now you've got a brawl everywhere. It's fucking World War III out there. Chris Jericho is knocked out cold. Cody goes for the door, outruns MJF. Everybody else is dead. It's Jamestown the morning after. Everyone's just on the ground, out cold. Jake Hager is somewhere else, kicking somebody in the balls in Bellator. It doesn't matter. Everyone's gone at this point. And Cody, he's minutes away from getting that title. He goes for the door to escape and outruns MJF and slams the fucking door on Cody's head.
Yes, that's perfect.
And he runs in there and he grabs an unconscious Chris Jericho and throws him out the door onto the floor. And Chris Jericho wakes up, and the Inner Circle wakes up, and they're like, "Holy shit, Chris, you won!"
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
exactly right. So you got on screen, you're not just burying things in a YouTube storyline. You're actually showing it on TV.
Right.
Two back-to-back, screw jobs, and then finally a capper on the whole entire feud. Right now, this seems like he should be fighting Jericho again.
Right.
But instead, now they're switching this off immediately and going right into MJF Cody, which is
right
way too fast.
Which you don't need to do MJF Cody until next year.
Yes. Milk it.
Figure Double or Nothing, rather All Out was the end of August. And now this one is the beginning of November, so there was about a 2-month break in between shows.
You know what? I wouldn't even pull the trigger on this feud. I would actually have MJF and Cody sort of have a reconciliation on Dynamite, even though there was a kick in the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just bring it back together. You don't trust me. You don't think I'm your friend and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, he was out there literally battling Jake Hagar. This wasn't your typical heel turn where, he's sort of softballing the other guys or just running around and not making contact. He was actually defending his friend the entire time.
And they could explain it like that, where basically he was like, I tried to save you, and you have the... And that's the thing. The way I'm telling it, MJF's final heel turn frustration with Cody, even whether it's authentic or it was a plot all along by the powers that be or whatever the Undertaker called him, the greater power. It was me, Austin. It was me the whole time. You can go either way with it, and I think it's stronger if you wait and you do it at when Cody has exhausted all of his other options and he had the title within his grasp. It's a stronger heel turn, and it makes MJF the most hated guy in the company, as opposed to the way they did it, to where, on Dynamite, he can be like, well, I tried to save you, and what thanks do I get? I wish I were dead, boo-hoo-hoo. And they're like, oh, let's kiss and make up. Yeah. And then they drag this out even further. It's like, that's not great storytelling. That's not as compelling to me, at least.
That's with the gas pedal on, and you've already moved on, and you've left money on the table big time.
Yeah, this isn't as smooth a ride as I would like it to be. So that's it. I mean, that's my only complaint about this. Let me say something. I thought he fucking gigged himself on purpose, and I'm like, wow, bud, you're taking some chances gigging yourself in the eye like that.
Man,
Yikes.
That was a massive gig. I'm telling you right now.
Well,
wow.
There are people who are convinced like he potatoed himself, and like. Okay, but the whole rest of the story was was that he came away with a cut, and I don't know. So again, if he purposely gigged himself, I thought he did, because the way he takes that face plant, like watch it again, because I watched it a few times. I'm like, did he really fucking nail his head? His hands are up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, there's no doubt it was worked. No question.
I didn't think so either, but there are people who watch more wrestling than I do that are convinced that was real.
Well, they're wrong.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. It set up the whole next match, and other than and you can do like a worked shoot spot where you face plant and you're protected, but you come up face full of blood, and then have the doctor check you out and everything. And there was at one point that I think Jericho was pulling the doctor away, which they're not going to do in a real if it's like a real medical problem in the middle of the match. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Jericho can't fuck with the doctor in the middle of the match unless that's a work spot. So, I, in that moment, got it. I, in that moment, thought it was a work, but there are people, like I said, who are convinced it's a shoot. I guess we'll never know until Cody goes on... what's your Canadian talk show where Brett had that whole conversation
off the record with Michael Landsberg?
Yes, until Cody goes on off the record and runs the whole thing down. All right, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega in a backyard brawl,
which apparently goes right away. And I know that AEW is setting up their rules, and so all the different stuff that they've established that they're standing for, such as time limits, rules, actual tag rules which don't exist, and of course their ranking systems. So right away, an unsanctioned lights out match which doesn't count with the rankings. So what do you think of that? Right away, you've already got your wild card right here, right at match number 7.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sure. So, I don't even know what to say about this. I wasn't into the Japanese death matches when they were a thing, and I didn't
get it all here.
Yeah, and I didn't get into ECW until, until like a lot of the guys had left for WCW. So like, the best years of the Raven, Sandman, Tommy Dreamer feuds were already done by this point. By the time I was able to find ECW by having one of my neighbors stand on my roof with rabbit ears. Anyway, And then I watched it pretty religiously when they were on TNN, but by that point it was a zombie company.
Oh boy!
So over the summer while I was getting chemo, I watched that backyard show that Game Changer Wrestling put out, where people are like diving into light tubes and shit.
Oh.
And when you're getting chemo, anything will make you laugh. You're just looking for anything to make you happy at that point. And I did. I had a good laugh at this stuff, like these fucking stunt show idiots, just diving into barbed wire. One guy, I want to say it was Nick Gage who hit somebody with a car. Legit hit him with a car, and they were like diving into pools and shit. And that was fun. Yeah, it's like
once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And my other thought while watching this was, so Jon Moxley tells Chris Jericho and anyone that'll listen that, he's free from the WWE to do his art because Vince McMahon wouldn't let him do stuff like this. I'm like,
oh my God.
If this is the shit that makes you happy, sure. I'm not one to poo-poo someone's happiness, but boy, is this something I don't ever need to see again.
Nope, and I think he's getting a scolding when he goes home too. Renee Young was on Twitter the entire time that this match was on, and she was like, "What the f?" was one tweet. Later on, she says, "No, seriously, what the f?" I mean,
go ahead.
She's seeing her husband, basically getting Wile E. Coyote'd 950,000 times. I mean, this match went on forever. There's a point where, you get the audience's attention with shock. That always works. You throw someone in tax, you get the ooh and the ah. But they actually wore the crowd out with this one, man. There was way too many. It was to the point where they were like, somebody die. Please, God, somebody die.
So I've never watched, I've only seen one Saw movie, and I've never watched any of the Hostels, but I imagine that's what this was like for people.
Same thing, bro. Exactly.
Yeah, this was just torture porn for 40 minutes. Any one of the last 20-minute spots could have been the end. When they went into the bed frame covered in barbed wire, that really should have been the end. But they went another 10 minutes after that. And then he had to pull out the Ciampa routine where he's got to dismantle the mat. And even then, they did 3 spots on the wood, and it was the third one that finally put Kenny Omega away.
Yeah.
I put this out on Twitter, and some people responded to it both positively and negatively. But I feel like in a world filled with MMA and easily accessible combat sports, this looked less real than Avengers Endgame, which featured monsters from outer space. Like, I'm more willing to believe aliens land, by the way, who also came from, back in time, and land on Earth, and have a giant battle in upstate New York, than I do anything that happened here with, and this is going to sound weird, but there wasn't enough blood.
Exactly. Like, even when you're dragging, so there's a couple of spots here. So you got the large barbed wire bed. You've got the, dragging someone through the glass, which is the first time I really ever saw that spot, but I thought it was gruesome.
Yeah.
It appeared that there were some cuts on the back, but they either they seemed to really heal really fast, or, they had some gimmickry going on there. But you're right. This was not a bloodbath, and if there was any time to have a bloodbath, this was it.
Yeah. Like, these two should have, for what they did, like, I'm not saying I want a match full of blood. I really don't. I don't, it's, a little, you gig yourself to get some color, fine, I get it. But I don't need, like, Dustin Rhodes fucking buckets of blood everywhere. Again, if you watch enough boxing, you watch enough MMA, it's so funny, but watching the Rocky movies with my 5-year-old, and Rocky at the end of Rocky 2 looks like his face got legit hit with a fucking mallet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've watched a lot of 12-round fights recently. Nobody looks like that.
If somebody is still standing and looking like the end of Rocky 2, that ref clearly does not have a good indication of when to stop a fight.
That ref was smoking opium, is what happened.
Oh, boy.
So I guess that's my thing, is if you like the Monster Truck Rally, And I was thinking about this before the show, so this is kind of going to be my last comment on this, and then we're going to wrap. I'm going to give you the last word, and then we'll wrap up. This, to me, was a monster truck show. And if you've ever been to a monster truck show, when you first get there, and the first couple of trucks come out, it's fun. They're colorful. It's loud. It's like a rock show. And what they do is there's a track, and they all go around the track, and there's a couple of ramps, and there's a half pipe that they do, and they do flips and stuff, and then they gymnastics. They fucking rate it, and whoever has the highest rating at the end of that circuit wins and goes into the next round. After about the third or fourth truck, you're like, at this point, I just want to see fucking crashes and fires. You've now seen everything these trucks are capable of. And that's kind of this match for me in a nutshell. After about 20 minutes of this, I was like, at this point, like you said, I just want to see him die.
It's just too much. It's too much.
I either end the match or Daffy Duck blow yourself up. At this point, John Moxley's ring gear needs to be a devil costume.
Oh, John Moxley. I just don't know.
So there needed to be an adult that said, this day doesn't need to be 40 minutes. Pick any 10 spots you guys are going to do, because one of those is your finish, and you're not doing the other 9. Get the fuck out of here. And just as an aside, I did, again, Japanese deathmatch stuff, kept wondering when piranhas and weed whackers were going to play into it.
Literally.
That was a thing. That happened.
Oh, absolutely. It certainly was. It certainly was. And I was all about that, man, when I was growing up. I'm telling you, when I got a VHS bootleg copy of that Japanese death match with Cactus Jack, I mean, I must have watched that a million times between myself and my friends. And we dug it. We were all about the light bulbs, and we were all about the tacks. And, man, I don't care if I ever see another hardcore match after this. This was so long. It took the crowd out. You know what? These guys put themselves through a lot of, pretty stupid stuff. But it got to the point where it's not organic. So, like you said, it just takes you out of the moment. You're like, okay, so he's going under. He's waiting for him to, to pour some glass here, and then he's going to drag him through. Just a lot of stuff. And especially the bed of barbed wire. So you had the Young Bucks came out and looked like they were acting all commissionary, we got to stop this match, and they were disgusted. No, sir, they bring out the bed of barbed wire, and those two meatballs fall in it. But you know what was weird about the barbed wire bed? It didn't seem to stick to them. And I think that's what Terry Funk and Sabu had.
These are gimmick barbed wire, that's why. A lot of the stuff is gimmick. Yeah. I don't think that's real glass either. I'm pretty sure that was sugar glass. Because real glass cuts you.
Yes, and they did have a couple little small pricks, but I mean... They fell into the barbed wire. It didn't stick to them. You remember when the classic match, Sabu and who was it? Sandman, maybe?
I was thinking you were talking about Sandman and Terry. Yeah, Terry Funk. Dude, they had to cut him out of the barbed wire.
That's what I'm saying. It was legit barbed wire. These guys are falling in like little plastic stuff. And it doesn't work. The match was too long. John Moxley, literally, he bothers me, I think. And Kenny Omega, what were you doing? What are you doing in this match? What is Kenny Omega doing in a hardcore match? Okay, buddy, you can
very brief cameo. Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I never want to see this again. I don't want to see Jimmy Havoc come out with his staple gun. I just don't want to see any more of this trash for another year. Simple.
Yeah. This is when I said I will never bring my kids to one of these pay-per-views. Like, if Dynamite ever comes to Tampa, I think you're pretty safe there because they're not doing this shit.
Oh, yeah.
On Dynamite. But, if, All Out or Double or Nothing or Full Gear or Fuck Riho or whatever the fuck show they're going to come up with next.
That would be an awesome one. The buy rate will be through the roof with the 35-year-old plus basement dwellers.
Live at the Budokan. Fuck Riho. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not bringing my kids to that. My wife wouldn't want to go see that. That's what I mean. And I hate this phrase, and I'm very much against it. But this is like incels and neckbeards championship wrestling. I'm not bringing my kids to this. I'm not spending money on this.
Well, it's so bad that I would rather watch The Fiend in the red light.
Whoa, no, don't go that far. Whoa.
Oh, no. It's that bad.
I will. I mean, I'll take Braun Strowman versus your future world heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Oh, I bought his.
Someone might hear you. Shut up.
I bought his shirt. I bought his shirt. I will be wearing it to WrestleMania in Tampa.
Oh, you're an asshole.
Yes, I am. Overall, look, Radulich and Broadcasting Network. We give it to you raw and wriggly. This was the best show they've done. It wasn't perfect. And I'm not going to tell you it's perfect, and I'm not going to sell you a line of bullshit, regardless of what you think, at Mark Radulich on Twitter. So for me, it's a solid B.
Yep. Me too. It was definitely a thumbs-up show for me. Definitely in the B range. They really got to figure out the middle of the card, because they got too much of the same stuff that goes on, in different matches. They've got characters right now that need something, anything. Like you've got Pac and you've got Hangman Adam Page. I mean, they literally have no reason or purpose to be in the company. Why are they feuding? Nobody cares. You know what I mean? You've got Riho, who just get the belt off that girl. It's the fetish porn thing got to go away. If you're having a serious women's division, put it on Britt Baker like you want to anyway, and just get that done. Let's be quite honest.
Here's a thought. Put it on, you know what? Either put it on Brandy or Kong or Nyla Rose.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Exactly.
I don't. Yeah, actually, that would not be a bad idea.
I would, at this point, put it on Brandy. Because if you've got Kong out there as a heater, give Brandy a couple of minutes. Make her be like a Ric Flair chicken shit heel type, where a hip toss and a headlock, and this is too much for me. And then Kong kills you, and then she, when the ref's not looking, and then Brandy puts a foot on you. Hey, and let her win a bunch of matches that way, and then get a couple of these other gals. Allie, I haven't seen fucking Allie since I don't know when.
I don't know.
Like since the Battle Royal, I haven't seen.
I guess
Allie.
we got to wait till the Battle Royal to see the roster. I guess I don't know. But yeah, overall, you know what? A solid show. I mean, I really don't have anything. I mean, I know we criticize the living hell out of this thing, but I don't think it's a terrible show. They've got definitely a lot of missteps that they got to correct course on to fix this product, because they got some things that long term is going to damage them.
Look, there are, last word on this, there are 1,000 other podcasts talking about AEW. 999 of them are going to focus on how great the wrestling is. You don't need that from Chris Bailey and Mark Radulich. What you need to hear is storytelling.
Yep.
And a lot of those podcasts are not talking about the storytelling, or they're talking about it to a lesser degree than they are moves. Everybody can do moves. Moves aren't going to sell tickets.
Nope. Neither will win-loss records. Moves and win-loss records, flippity-doos, topes, whatever you want. Not putting an ass in a seat. Sorry.
They had plenty of guys in TNA that could do moves too. And what drove away the fans was not the lack of ability in moves. It was shit storytelling that drove people away. And being put on fucking, Pursuit Network. But
yep, I agree.
No, but when TNA had an audience and we're on Spike TV, what drove people away from that product was the stories were retarded. End of line.
Yep. Yes, sir. Chris
Bailey. Plug your stuff.
I am Chris Bailey, and you can find me hooking up. We got a brand new Superblog team up, which I'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks, which we're going to be launching. I won't fill into details right now, but keep an eye on that. You can find all our other Superblog team up stuff over on the Twitter at hashtag Superblog Team Up or hashtag SBTU. You can also catch me over on the Chris and Reggie Network, or chrisandreggie.com, I should say, with my other podcast covering Strikeforce Moratory, the 1987 Marvel comic book, called Moratory Mondays is our podcast, and you might want to check me out there. Outside of that, you'll find me over here with Mr. Mark Radulich, and we're talking some wrestling. That's me.
All right. What went up today was Stephen King's N on source material. Tomorrow we'll be reviewing Dr. Sleep. We'll take a break from Stephen King and review the new Rumahoy, Time to Party with Captain Yarface. And then on Thursday we've got it on trial for The Shining. I met some boxing friends, and we're going to hopefully get to do some boxing coverage this weekend on ESPN+. Lee McGregor versus Ukasha Farouk. over in Scotland. Hopefully that all works out, and we'll be able to show you that. And next week, we've got The Boys, Name of the Game. We've got Ford versus Ferrari, She-Ra Season 4, Dragon Force Extreme Power Metal, and The Boys Season 1. And if you liked our wrestling coverage tonight, and really, why wouldn't you?
It's the best, because it's the truth.
It's me and the two Chris's on November 26th covering both NXT War Games.
Ooh, I cannot wait, sir.
Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And just penciled in, we've got some more wrestling coverage for you in December. We'll be reviewing WWE TLC on December 18th. So check all of that out, plus all the other great shows here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Chris, always a pleasure, always a lot of fun. Sorry for keeping you as long as I did.
Oh, no, my brother. I enjoyed it every single time, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. All right. This has been the Radulich Broadcasting Network TV party tonight. Again, I'm at Mark Radulich on Twitter. Send me your hate tweets. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Britt Baker's ugly.